I'm happy to be joined by Craig Suilivan, creative director at Criterion Games, to talk about Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Thank you for making this.
Thanks.
Nice to see it
Thanks
return.
for wanting to talk about it.
Let's talk about the career mode if you're a cop. How does that sort of start out, and how do you sort of advance in the game? Because it does have, if not a leveling system, as you play and you get better and you get bounty, you are getting cooler and cooler things to be able to play with.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things I looked at, and we used to joke about it in the office and say we have the dry humping problem, right? The cops are trying to dry hump me to a stop and then bust me, which is kind of okay if you're a racer, but what if you're the cop and you're nudging alongside this guy and it all gets a bit comedy and it slows down a little bit? So then we went back and looked at our Criterion philosophy for making games, which would be, what are the coolest police chases? What are the coolest busts I've ever seen in police chases? Right? We watch cops. We watch over here it used to be called police camera action, and the coolest ones would be where the guy runs over a spike strip and flies off the road, or the cop crash into him and kind of he spins out. And we wanted to make busting really, really fun. So we solved the dry humping problem by kind of giving the cops a super punch at the end and just saying, you do this for a bit, you bash into each other. The racer takes damage, and then the cop goes into him, and we trigger this brilliant sequence where the racer, wrecks out and he gets busted that way.
Now, as you advance as a cop, what are some of the additional weapons that you get throughout the course of the game?
We started off with the spike strips. They seem to be a very obvious inclusion for the cops. And then we looked at roadblocks and said, wouldn't that be cool if I could just call them in whenever I wanted to? So we put those in. And then we looked at what else we would put in. And a big or very strong memory I have for myself when playing Most Wanted is being chased by the police helicopter. So we thought that'd be another cool thing to call in. I can call in the helicopter. It chases after the racer at night. It's got a big spotlight on it that kind of shines on the racer so you never lose him. Flies out in front of the racer and then drops a spike strip on the floor, which the racer then has to try and avoid.
Aerial pursuit, report a confirmed hit.
We went back and looked at things like the Fast and the Furious movies, where some of the cops there have these little, like the EMP kind of bullets that they fire into the car, and we thought, well, we're not actually going to physically model these things, but we thought it'd be cool if the cops could pull up behind the racers, have this targeting reticule where you still get to track the guy and actually fire this EMP pulse that would blast the racer's car, not in a really overly arcade way that's massive explosions. It's just a burst of electromagnetic pulse that kind of interferes with the racer's controls and slows them down a bit.
Now, when you're chasing a racer, are you actually chasing racers? I mean, are there times where you come upon maybe 5 dudes who are flying down the road? Are you trying to take out all 5 of them in enough time?
Yeah, so obviously the game's called Hot Pursuit, so there's going to be pursuits in the game and they have to be hot. So what does that mean for a cop? Right, we've all seen it on the racer side. You drive as a racer, you get chased by a load of cops. If you're first across the finish line, you win the race. On the cop side, we wanted to keep it as similar as possible. So we say as a cop, you play, there's just 7 racers rip past you at 200 miles an hour, and your job is to shut the race down before they get to the finish line. So you see how far the racers have to go. You have a limited amount of weapons that actually change depending on what event you're playing and where you are in the progression of the game. The weapons level up as well, so they get more powerful the more you play. The more races you bust, the more bounty you earn, the more events you unlock, the more you upgrade your weapon.
What new cop cars do you get throughout because obviously it's kind of a different world, the police car versus the cars that a racer has.
We started off with the Crown Vic just because we knew everybody would identify with it. You see them rolling around in the States. I've been to the States a lot of times, and those are the ones I see. But then we wanted to remind people it was Criterion making this game. So I think the second or third event you unlock in the game is a preview event where you get to drive, one of our star cars, which is the Lamborghini Rebenton, and that's one of the faster cars in the game. We put it in as a preview event to show you what you're going to get to in a couple of hours' time. And you get to play it in the cool black and white cop livery with the flashing lights. It goes a little bit faster because it's an interceptor version, and cop cars are always tuned a little bit differently, so they have a slightly faster version of the normal Reventon. So in a straight race where you have a racer Rebenton and a cop Rebenton, he can pull alongside and you've got the different weapons. They both look different, they both feel slightly different, and you get an experience you can't have in any other game.
Now, the career as a racer probably sounds more familiar to most people. It's like, yeah, I'm just trying to go really fast. Maybe I look like Vin Diesel, but what is that sense of progress? What can you expect when you're playing as a racer in the game?
Again, it's about us meeting people's expectations of what they know from other Need for Speed games, what they know from other chase games. So, of course, we have racing in the game, and we have a very wide variety of races where you get to drive all of these amazingly different cars in all different environments. We also have hot pursuit specific events where the cops are going to turn up at some point. We try and surprise you as often as possible with that. So you're driving along and you're thinking, they're not here yet. I don't know when they're going to turn up. I don't know what cars they're going to be driving. I don't know what's going to happen with the weather, and I don't know where this route is going. Is it going to take me into the part of the world where maybe it's harder for me to escape, and the cop's job is made easier? So the hot pursuit events are really on the racer side, where you get to experience running as fast as you can, panicking with all of these cops, behind you, and you can see them in the rear view mirror we have in the game, and the lights are flashing away, and they're shouting at you, pull over, and the helicopters are chasing you down and pulling out in front of you, and the racers are there with you as well, trying to jostle for position and trying to overtake you and trying to pull out in front. So, it is that case that the racer side of the game is about running. It's about going as fast as you can and getting those guys away from you. We haven't made it into a kind of a dumb. It's not like a deathmatch game. We're not saying it's cops versus racers kind of doing this head to head, let's kill each other. It's cops versus racers, do what comes naturally, do what you see on the TV, do what you see in the movies. The racers run, the cops chase. That's why it's called hot pursuit.
What are some of the weapons, or what are all the weapons that you get as a racer in the game?
We wanted to make the racer experience all about running and panicking and being blinkered and kind of thinking, the cop's behind me, I'm not going to turn around and try and get into this fight that I'm potentially going to lose. I'm about getting down the road as quickly as possible and shaking this guy off. We thought, what would be the weapons that would give us that feeling as a racer? So we looked at a really, really cool weapon, or a cool upgrade to your car, which is turbo. Obviously, what's better than going 200 miles an hour? Well, 250 miles an hour is better than going 200 miles an hour. So on the racer side of the game, you have a turbo. You hit it, it powers up, it takes about 2 or 3 seconds to kick in, and then it blasts you down the road, and it's a way for you to just leave the cops kind of in the dust. We also looked at the racers having spike strips, which may come as a shock to some people, but actually we thought that if the cops are rolling with all this cool equipment, and as they do now, and they've got they've got radars in real life that they can see how fast someone's coming. In real life, again, the opposite side of that is the radar detectors. So we thought the racers would have counters, and the racers would have potentially black market versions of some of the cop equipment. So we thought, of course, there's probably some slightly suspicious, shady, black market version of a supplier that supplies both sides. So we give the racers spike strips just because they're cool, and it's cool to take out the cops behind you. We give the racers EMPs, which are a modified version of the cop weapons. But we also give the racers another weapon, which is not what the cops have, which is the counter to the EMP. So if the cops are behind you and you see this EMP reticule coming in and the cops are about to hit you, if you press the D-pad, you can engage your jammer as a racer, take down the cop's map, disappear off the map, and take down the cop's weapon. So for a time, the cops can't call in aerial support, or they can't call in roadblocks. So all of this stuff still happens at 200 miles an hour, and you're still in the chase, and it's a simple D-pad press to actually get around this, but it allows the chase to evolve, and it allows the chases to constantly be different based on who's using what weapon at any time.
Now, the online experience, the multiplayer, you can have up to 8 people, and you can sort of mix and match. What are the modes? What are the ways that you're going to be interacting with your friends or strangers when you're playing online? So
again, we wanted to make sure that the experience was consistent across the software. So when you play as a racer, obviously you can play offline or you can play online. You can play racing in both of those situations, and you can play hot pursuit in both of those situations. We also have Interceptor in the game, which is just a one-on-one chase. And you get to play those 3 experiences, Interceptor and hot pursuit and race, on both sides, and you're really getting to have fun. So On the cop side, Interceptor is obviously I'm chasing you, you're running. Hot Pursuit on the cop side online is I'm chasing you and a load of your friends, you're all running, I'm going to bust you all. On the racer side, it's the Hot Pursuit side is the cops are all chasing me and I'm trying to get to the finish with however many of my friends I want to play with. As you mentioned, when you're playing in a friends lobby, you can have any mixture. So you can have one cop chasing 7 racers, or you can have 7 cops chasing 1 racer. It's completely up to you. You've paid your money for the software, so we need to be as flexible as possible with the experience you want to have.
If that wasn't enough, this game also has a feature called Auto Log, which is actually quite remarkable in how it's going to allow people to sort of compete with their friends, both online and offline.
Yeah, I mean, online was something that we've always been really excited by and really interested in. And for those people that play Burnout Paradise, you saw that during the course of our downloadable content, which we made for 12 months following release, we were putting more and more features for friends to compare and compete against each other into the game. So the natural evolution for us was to build that into the core of the game this time around and make Need for Speed Hot Pursuit a very, very connected game that requires no real user input. So the game automatically connects you to your friends, automatically compares your times on every event, and automatically posts your time out to people. And we have a wall in the game, you can take pictures and kind of just do everything that you would expect to do on a social networking site inside the game. So that comparison and that friendly competition and the ability to basically create gameplay between your friends is something that automatically happens in the game all through Autolog, which is a pretty new and innovative feature and something that I think people are going to have a lot of fun with.